Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Tom. That song hits close to home for my family, and I'm sure for many others. So you've reminded me that it's all in the way you look at it, right? That what we see, and this is what the embodiment of the Christ consciousness is. It's the wholeness that is already in you. And it is the perception that we view life, where John and I were talking the orientation that we bring to life. And when I see my granddaughter live this type of life, I think, no. And, maybe it is no, but for her right now, it's yes. And so you brought to my heart to see it from a different perspective. So thank you. I really appreciate that. And Jackson, your music is always so beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. But today we are talking about the embodiment of the Christ consciousness. And what I want to say about that is it's hard to talk about the Christ consciousness without talking about Jesus, the teacher. Now, there were many, many teachers on the planet. And Jesus was a person just like you and I. And he achieved self-realization in a time where there were many, many things going on. And the song reminded, perfect song, because he saw the world from what's right. He saw the world from what was going on. He saw the world from the seed of embodiment that's already planted in you. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But I do have a joke. We gotta lighten it up a little bit, right? So here's my joke. Why do vegetable lovers love practicing yoga regularly? Why indeed? They always want to find their inner peace. Okay, that didn't land. I have another one. How did my instructor know I was serious about yoga? I told her I would be as flexible as possible. So my goal as a minister is always to be flexible, but it doesn't always work out. But that's okay. That's a talk for a different day. But I am so overjoyed to be here during this holiday season and to remember what's right. We had so much fun yesterday. I'm sorry if you weren't here. You missed it. But as Kathleen made in the announcements, we had a great time. And I want to tell you, Mel stole the show. Stole the show. Hilarious, did a great job as Santa, and the girls, Juliet and Nanette, put on a wonderful, wonderful show, and I look forward to doing more of those things, and we just really enjoyed ourselves. So thank you for those of you who had come, those of you who are here in spirit, and we raised a great bit of money for CASA for Youth, and isn't it wonderful to be able to tithe that out? And I believe in planting karmic seeds, and when we find someone who wants what we need, we give it to them, and we agree to a karmic seed, and then that law of prosperity and reciprocation comes in and boils up and flows us over, and abundance shows up in so many ways. So that made my heart full. But getting back to Jesus. Right. You know what? I really, really have had a very long week. And, because we all have personal lives and things happen. And John reminded me, it's okay. There's always a jumping off point. And it's good to look at what's right. And again, this is what I believed that Jesus did. He looked at what was right. Now, the embodiment of that consciousness, I was taught by my teacher that the Christ consciousness is an office that Jesus held. I am Tracey holding the office of minister, and the Christ consciousness is embedded in all of us. He, I would like to tell you I personally knew him, but I have, in my own personal way through meditation, feel like it is a personal perspective of how you view him, and what was important for us to remember him so many years away from when he walked this planet or didn't. I don't know. I wasn't there. But the point is that he always saw what was right. He looked into you and didn't see the thing that you thought was wrong about yourself. He didn't see the problem. He saw the wholeness, and that magnetic energy or field really created a transmission for people to help them start to travel a path to their wholeness, to reveal their wholeness. Because you're not getting to wholeness, you're already whole. But what he wanted you to do is to see that the perception you have about life, the views that you have about life, and how we cultivated them and where they came from is a lie. That there's a reality to life, and the reality is that you are whole. The reality is that you are love and loving and loved. And based on the way we were brought up, the way we see the world, it can be really difficult to see these things about ourselves. And we are here at this center to remind you of that. And sometimes what intrigues me about the Christ consciousness and the embodiment of it is it's not something that you really have to try to do. You already it. What we have to do is let what's false about us fall away. And that is really difficult to do when we're in relationship with people and there's discord, because the discord really is our own, right? We talk about this a lot, and there's many different ways to talk about it. But I really loved and am in love with the idea of what would Jesus do? Remember this campaign, What Would Jesus Do? But it always intrigued me, because how do I know what would Jesus do? And whenever I try to do it like what Jesus would do, it never works out, because I'm trying to be somebody that I've heard about but not who I am. And you forget that we, this big proclamation about this man didn't really, in my opinion, want this big proclamation. What he wanted you to know is that you are just like him, and that consciousness that he achieved is the consciousness that you already are and can be revealed within yourself if we stop and listen to our higher self. We go within and we become in tuned to our true nature. And we listen to the mind and how it takes us out. And what I've recognized is that fear is a sign that you have been taken out of your reality, your true self, and into your world of illusion. The things that you think about people, the things that you think about life, about work, about job. So what Jesus was merely teaching us is to recognize the ways that we move away from our higher, our true self. So with unconditional love and compassion, Christ consciousness, Jesus, his love was sincere. It was genuine. It was a deep, compassionate, reaching for all, and people were in tune with that. And I think we have all met somebody in our life that really reflected back to us, people that have worked through their stuff, how they reflect back to us this genuine love. And we talk a lot about a mirror. And when you meet someone who's worked through all of their stuff, we had this talk this morning about Ajashante, and there are many teachers, Muji, my teacher, Tom, and when you get to meet these people that have really purged or purified their personality self, the reflection back is love. And it can be quite confusing if we're just starting on the seeking path, or you're still caught in your mind a lot, because, we want to be this way, or we wouldn't be in a church like this. But things come up in our humanity, and we do have minds, and we think, and sometimes we might fall short of a conversation with someone, or somebody that we want to be in love with, or something that's unfolding, because life is always unfolding. There's always something that comes up. And so what we have a tendency to notice, or what I notice in myself, is how I try to be instead of just be. Right? How I want you to see me instead of just being okay with who I am. Just standing in my own shoes with a sense of authority. And this is what Jesus, in my opinion, was really good at, is that he didn't let anyone move him from his movement. He knew his higher and true self. It became him. And this is the journey. And so I was really interested in about the things that prevent us, the things the mind come up with to prevent us from being or take us out of our true self. And, sincerity, authenticity, love, compassion, this is our true self. When the mind comes in, we can enable, right? For me, love was being nice, and who knows when you meet someone and something's going on and you want to be honest with them, how to be honest with them, how to not be judgmental but be honest, how to listen and not overtalk, how to point them in the right direction but not your direction. How do you share love with them and allow them to find their own way without your agenda being the topic? This is really hard for us, right? Because ultimately our mind, we want to fix people, because if we fix people, then we will be fixed. And it's so hard to see the people that don't live lives like we do, and we think their life should be different, but maybe it's just fine for them for right now. Maybe they haven't gotten to that point where they're suffering enough from their own point of view that a change needs to be made, right? And so now I don't know about the people that, are homeless or why they're homeless. I just know that, we all have a story and sometimes we can be stuck in it. But what I do try to see when I see these things that my mind goes, oh, gosh, that must be so hard, is to say, right there is Christ consciousness. Right there is love. Right there is a seed. And that seed isn't any different in them than it is in me. And I don't have the answers for them as Tracey, but as a spiritual being, seeing another spiritual being and knowing their wholeness, that their illusion that they've created in the characters around them are serving them on a purpose to a higher cause. It is moving them into the direction. Now, I believe in many life cycles, and I believe each life cycle gives you exactly what you need for you to embody your wholeness. And I believe this is what Christ was teaching us as well. Jesus the Christ, our great teacher, that held that office. And when we really want to see ourselves, we have to recognize ways to be able to do that. Coping mechanisms that we have, or tools that we have to be that. And the way that I have learned this recently is to be quiet and listen. And to let people, or to ask a question to reveal how somebody might be feeling. And to be honest with them about not having the answers, but to lift them up and tell them that there's a way. And that although I might not have the way is made for them. And that, for them to be quiet and still could be very difficult when you have a very busy mind. And people that are caught up in illusion or the world, most of them have a very busy mind. And Christ, or Jesus the Christ, the great teacher, what I know of him, or what I intuit about him, is that his ability to just let people be who they are. He didn't make excuses. He didn't make the right, right or wrong is, I have to be careful with that, because that's a viewpoint, right, or morality, right or wrong. But he didn't make excuses for what they were doing or their behaviors. He saw past that, and he told them the truth as he stood in his power. And as we're working towards that, I had to remember that people went to him. Right? They sought him out, and that gave him permission to mentor or to teach or to share the higher teachings. And he didn't go looking for people that needed him. He didn't go looking for people and say, hey, I have the power of God inside of me and I can heal you. He didn't do that. When they were around him, they felt it and they shared with him. And through that sharing, it enabled him to give more to them than they had ever felt from anybody else on the planet. So to me, this is embodying the Christ consciousness, is getting to know yourself. Getting in tune with that higher part of you that he said is in you and is in me. And during this holiday season, embodying the Christ consciousness and looking at the ways that we might I'll use the word fall short of it, because you really don't. You just are acting from an old behavior that hasn't been quite corrected yet, because we haven't been honest about ourselves with it yet. And then when we meet someone that shows us how to be honest with ourselves, we can push them away or we can go within. Going within is really hard sometimes, right? It's just really challenging to say, oh boy, I'm the one that caused that. That's really challenging. But I have learned that when you stand in true authenticity of yourself, and you can, as much as possible, put your mind aside and open your heart, a sense of intimacy arises between you and that other person, and a genuineness arises. And I don't know about you, but when you're having a conversation with someone and it's not really kind of going the way you want it, and you say things because you want to try to prove a point instead of revealing the essence of spirit, it can feel kind of inauthentic. And you walk away going, well, that didn't go too well. So the embodiment of the Christ consciousness is to pray up before you have a conversation in this world, right? The embodiment of Christ consciousness is to reveal to yourself all that you are, the truth. The seed within you is the light and the spark of love. And because we're humans having this experience, it can really be quite confusing. And I really want to bring to my ministry and to the people that I talk to that the answer is within you, and you don't really need to seek out. And I used to say when I would go to Yuma to talk, I would say, I hope this is the last time you have to come to church. And next week, this is the last time you have to come. And next week you have to come. And next week you come because you want to. Because when we have to do something, we're still feeling broken. We're still feeling like we need to be more. We're still feeling like there's some shortcoming. And, you know, I was telling Tom, we were having this conversation, and I said, you know, what got me here to Science of Mind, to studying, to being a spiritual seeker, to looking at the Christ consciousness, was the sense that I was broken or not enough, right? That there had to be more, that I was doing something wrong, that when I really struggled in school, so I thought, God, I need to do better. I need to be better. There was always this desire to be more than what I am. And that is good to a point, but everything in life is balance. So Christ consciousness is a sense of balance. It's a sense of being in the world, but not of it. It's a sense of recognizing when fear is arising, you're out of tune with your true self. It's following your joy once you have a sense of self-awareness. It's moving in the direction of what feels good, right? And, you know, as long as that feeling good isn't harmful to the body or to the mind or to others, then you follow that ecstasy, and that ecstasy is the flow, and it moves you in the direction. And this, again, what I think is what people felt from Jesus, and they felt free and independent, and they didn't feel judged, right? He did not, in his purified sense of self, have the personality anymore, so there was no reflection of judgment back to the other person. I mean, who wouldn't feel free in that view of life, right? When I sit in front of my teacher, I feel the most free that I have ever been, because I don't feel this need to defend or define or to hide or pretend. I get to just be me. And I was going through something this week, and I sent him an email, and I said, I am really confused. I don't know what to do. And he said, have confidence in yourself. There is no right or wrong. Follow your heart, and whatever reveals itself is what it is. And when I read that, I was like, oh, I was so caught up in the chaos and the confusion that I didn't ground myself in the truth and recognize that there's always a way, and that the wholeness is for everyone, and that just because I see something the way it is doesn't mean that I'm seeing the wholeness of it. If I'm looking through Tracey's lens, there's always something that needs to be fixed. There's always something that needs to be corrected. There's always something that could be done better. But when I stop and see it through the eyes of the higher consciousness, everything is whole. You are whole, I am whole, everything is whole. And because I can't see it all the time doesn't mean it's not true. And this is the message of the Christ consciousness. This is your message today, that you are loved, and when you stand in your truth and you don't know how to deal with something, say nothing. Don't speak when you're emotional. Take a deep breath. Get your survival skills out, break out a book, read something, call someone, and just listen for when the true moment to speak is. Because Jesus stood, from all that we know about him, he stood in his truth, right? He wasn't always proclaimed to be the nicest of people. I mean, he got pretty mad about some stuff, right? He got really upset. But you know what? He didn't apologize for being upset, because he knew when to be upset. He knew when that was, he had a sense of discernment. So we have these gifts of spirit to be present, to evaluate the situation, to use your sense of discernment, to get in contact with your higher self, and then to move from that space. And if you recognize this or you try it, what you will realize is when you walk away, you'll feel so much better about what was going right. This isn't just about what's going wrong. It's about what's going right too, right? We want more of the good stuff. That's what we all come here for, right? Is to leave here feeling good. We want more of the good life. Well, the good life is yours. It's already present. What we're trying to show you is to stop getting tied up in the inertia. That's what Jesus, the teacher, was showing. That's what the Christ consciousness is about, is we are here on this planet and move from perception. We move from perception to self-awareness, and we watch how we move through the world and decide how you want to be, right? I was having this conversation with someone, and I said, how do you want to be? What do you want from the world? You have to know these things so that you will know when you see it, it'll feel good. But if you don't know what you want to be and you're lost in the sense of opinions of other people and you're never grounded in your own sense of confidence and spirituality, but your own sense of confidence and your own self-awareness, then you will always be seeking advice from other people. So we do go to those that might have a little bit higher awareness than us, but they always point you back to yourself. So today, this talk is about pointing you back to yourself, that own seed of Christ consciousness within you, and letting it bloom, watering it, standing in your own authenticity, your own awareness. And when a conversation has to be had, have it. When you want to have fun, have it. But just follow that flow that feels good. And, just make sure it's not causing harm to you or others. And then you are in that flow. And when you're in that flow, everything unfolds. And then this is when everything that you want finds its way to you, right? I know when I'm entangled or enmeshed in chaos, nothing finds its way to me but more chaos, right? Jesus was saying when you are free and when you recognize yourself and when you move as the world moves, right? Not the world, I apologize, but you move as the flow moves, as the higher consciousness moves, and you drop all that is unreal away. There you lie. There is your truth. And I just invite you to bring this sense of self to the holiday season, to the places that you feel are broken, because they're really not. It's just a belief. So that's the other thing he did in wrapping up, was he was able to see people's beliefs as a teacher of higher awareness. Him and all the other teachers, right? They were just pointing you to, if you are unhappy, if things aren't going your way, if you are entangled in a mess, it's just because you have a belief that needs to be pulled up by the root. And when you pull it up by the root, it's gone, and you feel free, and you have a sense of independence. So we can all achieve the office of the Christ. We can all be the teacher that Jesus was. Do it in your way. I am Tracey. I'm going to do it in my way. I invite Hazel to do it her way and Tom to do it his way. I invite you all to move in that realm. And if you feel like something is stopping you, take a class. Reveal it. Sit with Spirit. Ask him to show you. I was asking for a sign the other day, and I said to the universe, I am really hard-headed. You need to drop an anvil on my head. You got to show me. I have to see it mentally, physically, emotionally. And I was in this situation, and this person walked through the door that I hadn't seen in a very long time, and my face just went and I was like, okay, well, I got it. That's a big, 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 big sign, right? And and it was a joyous reunion and a great moment. But the other side of that was, what do I do now? How do I meet this moment? How do I show compassion and not my judgment? How do I make this person, help this person to reveal that truth about themselves without judgment? And that's sometimes where we fall short. And you know what? It's okay, because my teacher Reby would say, there's always another day. There's always another chance. Keep striving. Keep moving. Keep the high watch. That you are whole. You are complete. You are loved. And I just send you away with that. I know that truth for you. I know it for myself. And, our humanity gets the best of us, but that's okay, because good things happen. Those escalating things happen, and those things that we don't want to happen. But either way, we're here. And as long as we're here, we get another opportunity to embody that consciousness and move to higher realms through seeking. I love you. I'm so deeply grateful to be here. Namaskaram. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. We'll see you next week.